Now, if you look at, and this is why we would advocate what we would call like a multi-layered approach. The Quranic descriptions, I'll tell you what I mean by this. The Quranic descriptions of the embryological development of babies in the womb of mothers is not only I'll tell you. It's not only reconcilable. This is the point first, and I'll give you the evidence and then the explanation, like they do in school, PEE, right? It's not only reconcilable with what they believed at the time, but it's also concurrent of what we know today. And I don't believe that can be said of anything, whether it be religious or extra-religious, of the time of the Prophet, before the time of the Prophet, or even after the time of the Prophet by 500, 600, 700 years. So let me tell you, that's my point. The evidence of the passages of the Quran, you'll find in two distinct places of the Quran where it specifies this. So for example, chapter 22, Surah Al-Hajj of the Quran, and chapter 23, Surah Al-Mu'minun of the Quran, it describes that the baby in the womb of the mother, first and foremost, you talked about chapter 86 of the Quran, Surah Al-Tariq, that the Quran seems to differentiate between a fluid which gushes from a higher part of the body from the sperm, because it uses different terminologies and phraseologies for that. So ma'in dafiq is gushing fluid, and it then says many or nutfa to distinguish that ma'in dafiq from the sperm itself. The sperm, it says in chapter 76, verse 2, it says that inna khalaqna al-insana min nutfatin amshajin, that the human being is created from an intermingling of the two different kinds of the two fluids. Now, it's really interesting terminology here, because it suggests that both the man and the woman have something to do with the fertilization process. It does say that, it does suggest that, but not in the way which, but it's not suggested in the same way that Aristotle, for instance, explicitly mentioned, which is that it's the woman's menstruation and the man's sperm. So there is a differentiation there. Then you'll find in chapter 96 of the Quran, verse 1 and 2, where it talks about the human being made of alaq. Alaq comes from the Arabic word meaning something which literally clings, or a clot of blood, or whatever it may be. And you'll find that, generally speaking, that the baby does act like a bloodsucker, frankly. So it does act like a bloodsucker. It has an umbilical cord. It takes the nutrients from the uterine wall. It takes that from the mother. Moreover, yeah, okay. Well, look. Let me continue. Let me continue. But you haven't let me put the full case forward, though.
What about the bones coming first?
No, well, let me come to that, right? So in chapter number 22 and chapter 23, in chapter 22 and chapter 23, it defines the stages of embryological development. In both of those places, it talks about alaqa and mudgha. Mudgha is literally something which seems to have been bitten, something which seems to have bitten, right? Chewed, yeah?
These are vague terms.
Okay, now what I'm saying to you is this. Forget about me saying to you that this is an argument to prove that the Quran is true. I'm not making that point. I'm saying, look at this. These claims are interesting in so much as they don't contradict the 21st century reality in any explicit way. That's the interesting part for me. Like, for example, the guy there was talking about...
These things were already known about, though.
No, give me an example of what was known about. Galen, who died in 210 AD, yeah, who was probably the foremost person who wrote about these things, he didn't mention the term alaqa. He didn't mention days in particular. You know, in the riwayah of Ibn Mas'ud, there's two hadiths actually that reference what happens in the mother's womb. And it says that in 40 days, you can distinguish between whether this thing is a male or a female. And it says that actually that point, the ruh, or the soul, is blown into it. So the point is this, right? It becomes viable. This is called ensoulment. What I'm saying to you is, I'm not saying to you look at the Quranic scientific. I'm not a advocate of what they refer to as the scientific miracles of the Quran. But what I am an advocate of, or what I am telling you is, what's really interesting about the Quranic narrative is that when it talks about materialistic phenomena or things which relate to the natural world, as per the scientific discourse, it does so in a way which is not only reconcilable with that which the primary audience of the time would have understood, but also understandable from our perspective, and not necessarily contradictory in a way which is completely irreconcilable.
It's because it's said in such a simple, vague way. You could apply it to today as well.
Yes, go ahead.
You know, a few hundred years ago they said that, okay, let's say it was just a joke, yeah, that the moon is made of cheese, yeah? Is that vague, or is there any way of actually proving that? The people who said it at the
things that
time.
are true and aren't true.
So they said it via observation, am I correct? My point is this. You state now, and it's going to go back to
go
Muhammad
ahead.
in a minute, just only one.
Yeah.
What I was stating earlier on was you stated that, and it's an understandable statement, that those things were well known back then. What I'm trying to say is, let's say you're back there 1,400 years ago and you have stated that all animals are made of water. Let's just say, yeah? How would you know if you were telling the truth or not? Would you know that? Would you have known that? Listen,
They weren't well known scientifically. They were known as concepts.
What he's saying is that we say that now because you have the power of hindsight. Now you can retrospectively look. Now what we're saying is that what's interesting about the Quranic narrative, we're not saying that it has to be in perfect harmony with the scientific narrative. Hold on. What we're saying is science changes. So for instance, we had the steady state theory, and now we have the expanding model of the universe, right? We had Newtonian physics. Now we have Einsteinian physics. So science is not a static thing. We don't believe that science.
No, but the
however,
Quran says it's perfect.
no, but are you listening to what I'm saying? Because I'm saying that science is not.
Science changes, yeah.
Yes, if science changes, then the Quran, if it were to be perfectly in line with science, then it itself would not be perfect. Because if science is changing, then the Quran would have to change with it.
Because it also says, you had what's that thing about Pegasus flying up to heaven?
Pegasus. We don't have any Pegasus.
Flying horse or something.
What about the flying? There's no flying horse.
Wasn't there?
Where's the flying horse? We talk about Buraq. Buraq. Okay, Buraq. Okay, what's the problem with Buraq? Tell me what the problem. Do you know what? Let me tell you something. Atheists believe in Buraq. You know, I've seen this in the recent debate. I'm not going to mention his name. I don't want to give him any publicity.
One guy thinks it, so everyone else does.
No, hold on. Let me tell you something right now. Atheists, I can tell you something right now, yeah? This is something that people say all the time. Oh, look, Muslims believe that, the flying horse and, okay, well, hold on. I can tell you now, unequivocally, that it's not just, Muslims are not unique in this belief. You know who believes this as well? And then let me tell you, atheists believe in the flying horse. Wait a minute, what did you say? Hold on.
So some people
atheists believe in it. Let me tell you why they believe in that. Oh, sorry, wait. Say no, hold on. No, hold on. I'll tell you why. Do you accept that some atheists believe in the multiverse theory?
Yeah.
It's actually a very popular theory in atheist circles, yes?
Is it?
Yes, I can tell you that it is from my analysis of the sociological.
You've asked 6 billion people, have you?
Well, I don't think there are 6 billion atheists.
Or just in general, people on the
Well, anyways, from what I've seen, multiverse, especially in academic circles, is becoming more and more popular, especially among atheists. Okay, an atheist who believes in multiverse. Most of the atheists, academics, who believe in a multiverse theory, believe in an infinite amount of universes, correct?
I mean, it's certainly possible.
Thank you. You're saying it's possible. That's it. Thank you. You know why? Do you know what that means? Do you know what that entails? What that entails when you say that there are an infinite amount of universes is that all potential possibilities have been actualized or will be actualized.
No, I'm sure what they would say.
Hold on. Listen to what I'm saying very carefully, right?
It's a possibility.
Listen carefully. If you believe, hold on. If you believe in an infinite amount of universes, then what you actually believe is that all potential possibilities either have, are, or will be actualized. That's what you believe in.
I don't personally.
No. You said it's possible though, yes? Yes. So, okay, hold on. Because this might sound...
Are you saying there could be a God in someone?
No, hold on. Let me say this one more time, because I know it's a bit much to swallow. My point is this. Atheists who believe in a multiverse of an infinite amount of universes believe that there was a man called Muhammad who flew with Buraq.
Yeah,
do you know why?
Possible.
Do you know why? Because they believe in an infinite amount of possibilities that have, will, or will be, or will be actualized. Now, do you know what that means?
Well, that's assuming there's a multiverse and assuming that it works in that
Okay,
way.
so my question to you is there a possibility on this model that there was a man called Muhammad that flew to the heavens, yes or no? With this thing called Buraq? Yes or no? Yes or
You're
no?
doing that thing where you try and trap
No,
him in
no,
the corner.
no, no.
I'm not gonna say
No, no, no.
yes.
It's a genuine
reality.
question.
It's a reality.
It's a possibility, isn't it? You couldn't negate it as a possibility.
Okay, let's say yes.
Yes.
That's what you
So
want me to say.
according to you, it's possible on this model that there was a man called Muhammad who claimed to be a prophet who flew to the heavens with this thing called Buraq. So me and you are on the same page. I don't think there's anything different between me and you.
We find out. Where will we find out then?
You know what we're gonna find out? We're gonna find out, brother. We'll see.
We'll see.
The thing is, atheists believe, and this is the new atheist
After all
thinking.
This is why people come back. At the end of the day, you can't prove there's a
No,
God.
no, no. Atheists believe. This is the thing. This is the problem. Atheists believe that which is, and this is what something that's come out of this debate. Atheists come to believe that actually, if something is not verifiable through empiricism, then it must be false, which is the argument from ignorance. What I'm saying, it's a fallacy. What I'm saying is that we've already established metaphysical precepts like formal logic, like mathematics, like language, like the scientific method itself, like axioms and theorems in mathematics. All of those things have been designated, or abstract things, and therefore for Plato were designated in the land of forms, or there's a mode, there's a whole world of forms. It's not something you can verify, but you would never deny the existence of mathematics. What I'm saying is, just because something is metaphysical from a philosophical perspective, something you cannot see or have not witnessed, it doesn't mean it has not happened. Let me tell you something, yeah? Why are you so fascinated with the fact that there's a man called Muhammad that took on this, or who
I
wrote?
said
No, hold
one
on.
passing
No.
phrase. You're acting like I've been going on
No,
about it.
no, but it's not just you. It's in the narrative. Trust me. It's in the narrative. Believe me. Why are you so fascinated by the fact that could be a man who rode this special vehicle called the Al-Buraq, who actually moved from one part of the world to another part? We've got those things now. They're called planes, trains, automobiles. We have rockets. Let me tell you something. Yeah, hold on. It's not a horse. It's not a horse. It's called Al-Buraq. It's it's something which God created, yeah? And God, we believe, is the all-powerful, which literally is a transportation vehicle, yeah, which allows for that kind of trespassing or movement from different places. Now listen to me carefully. If I were living 1,000 years ago, 150 years ago, do you know when planes were invented? Tell me when planes were invented.
Don't know the exact year.
I'll tell you about 1895, yeah? The Wright brothers. 1903, is it the Wright brothers, yeah? Some say that there were planes that came before, and the Wright brothers, they're credited with the invention of planes. We're talking about 100 years ago. 200 years ago, same country. You say to someone who's used to seeing a horse and carriage, you say to them, listen, there's going to come a time. You say, wait a minute, what are you saying? I'll tell you again. There's going to come a time where people en masse are going to be flying in the air and going to be drinking, and going to the toilet in the air.
That's nothing to
No, hold on. If you say to those people that that's going to happen, can they fathom that? Have they experienced that? Have they seen that? Have they heard that? Have they smelt that? Have they felt that? No, they haven't. But the fact that they have not experienced those things doesn't negate that is a reality which could happen and has happened and is happening. So you see.
That's an ignorant way of saying it, because you
Why?
can say anything could happen.
No, but sorry, a moment
Okay,
ago.
so that's what you said.
Yeah, you said the Buraq, a flying horse. You said just to
On
say-
multiverse.
You said it
I
as if
just
it's
made
funny.
one comment. I'm not.
Oh no! I just mean that the fact is, you said it as a negating term, as if that proves Islam
You see.
wrong.
No, as one of many terms that. Can't
No,
be.
it's
But
not.
it's- but he just showed
This is
that it's
a
not.
collapse because actually
right.
here
Hold on
it says
a minute.
unscientific.
I'm giving up.
The
Because
platypus.
it's
People were laughing
unscientific.
at the platypus a while ago.
Listen to me. Listen to me carefully. This argument that's put across now by I would say a self-congratulating, narcissistic, post-colonial.
That's what you do with the Quran. You say, "Oh, the
hold
Quran
on.
must be true."
No.
because it's the
I'm not
Quran.
saying that. I'm saying a self-congratulating, narcissistic, post-colonial, atheistic, materialistic,
That's what you're saying.
naturalistic.
No.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you.
He's
saying atheist.
He's
I'm
saying
saying
the narrative.
the archetypal new atheist, like Richard Dawkins, and his likes and his people of his ilk, they come with this argument as if it's some kind of Trump argument. As if it's some kind of
So
look
it's a humorous
at this
thing
and look
to
at that.
think of.
No, it's humorous because
Is
you
the
haven't
platypus
experienced.
a funny thing to think of?
Just because something is not
It's real.
But that's real. That's the thing.
Just because something you cannot envisage it, you have not experienced it, it doesn't mean it's not true. Do you see how that works? That's called the argument of ignorance.
It's true either, though.
I'm not
Like, you
okay.
can't-
Look, I'm listening
You
to
could say anything could be true. By
It's
that
not an
logic.
angle to
Yes,
deny it from. Is
yeah,
what he's
yeah.
saying.
Right. What we're saying is, if you want to know, if you want to live, if you want to be in the mind of a religious person, understand how religious people, rationalize their belief. It's not philosophically ingenuous to try and throw these straw man arguments, red herrings, or otherwise.
You see the straw man with atheists all the time, though. Like, as a principle, religious people throw the straw man out all the time. They say these people think that, therefore this isn't true, but this, they do that thing all the time, though.
I'm sure they do.
It's
But,
human nature to do that sometimes.
all right, fair enough. Okay, but do you see where we're coming from?
Sort of, not really, but
All right.
I'll say yes.
I'm saying to you this. Look, Simba, listen to me carefully.
Did he break you?
We're saying God is one. He created the universe. Yeah? He created human beings in the universe. He created us with a purpose. That purpose is to recognize his
Why were
existence.
humans created? Like, so humans were created full stop, or do you, like? Because are you saying that humans were created as humans, sort of thing?
Yeah.
Straight away? But why not? Why can't? I mean, this is again. I'm getting into another branch here. But what about? I'm going to say the word that's going to probably trigger a lot of people around here. What about evolution?
Did you see?
That's what I'm saying. Now.
I'm going to tell you something, right?
Muslims deny that as
No,
like,
look, yeah, as I said to you before, this is such an exhausting argument. And we've had those arguments, we've had those discussions, right?
you
About
can't
evolution.
prove your views. Though.
We're saying that
We can.
Darwinian evolution is a valid model, yeah, to
fits in the evolution.
reconciling different things. But if I say to you, look, I'm going to say to you that there are certain precepts of Darwinian evolution which cannot be substantiated.
Tell me some proof.
For
that
example,
evolution
homology.
isn't real.
Homology is the idea that everything in existence, in terms of biology,
Can I just ask, does the Quran say that evolution isn't true, or does it imply that evolution can't exist?
no, the Quran specifically says that human being is distinguished from all of the other animals.
Okay, so therefore evolution can't be true.
So human evolution in particular, we don't care about speciation, we don't care about adaptation, we don't care about all of those things. We don't actually have a beef with those things. We're just saying that human being was made special, and that he was created directly from God, and that there was no random process that created the human being. So that was a direct guided process.
Give me some evidence for that. Like that, humans. That's
Okay, fine. Some evidence.
against evolution. Give me some.
No, what I'm going to say to you is that evolution, in and of itself, is a valid model, right? Darwinian evolution is a valid model. However, there are some of the premises of evolution, the logical precepts of it, which cannot be substantiated. For example, homology, right? If I said to you, homology is the idea that everything that exists in terms of the biological world around us descends to one common ancestor, or one single cell, that potentially everything, the web of life, or whatever you want to call it, the tree of life, or has all sprouted from, has come from this one singular cell. If that is the case, the assumption is as follows. The assumption is that everything has come to existence, all the differences within creatures can be explained because of, all the similarities that exist within creatures can be explained because of common difference. But that's a circular argument. And that's actually one
There
that...
are many different branches.
No, but you're listening to me. So many have talked about the problem of if substantiating homology as a logical precept, as a foundational epistemological underpinning precept, almost axiomatic, or a pillar that actually holds up this idea of evolution. We're saying that it's a secular argument to say that how can you prove that everything which is similar is the result of common descent? And then you say the reason why is because everything which is similar is because it's from common descent. No, but listen, you're saying no, but this is a problem on the highest levels of academia.
There's biological, there's archaeological, there's like you can. There's so
Are you
many
listening to
different-
the point I'm making to you is, when you look at a Darwinian evolution model, it says that everything in existence exists because all the similarities that we can see in creation or in the biological world is a result of common descent. Is that understood? So the fact that we all came from one singular cell, for instance, or whatever it may be, that all of the similarities, because the opposite of homology is homoplasy. Homoplasy is the idea, the differences between different biological creatures. Homology says it's similarities between different biological organisms can be explained through the fact that they all commonly descend from one species. I'm asking, how can you prove that all the similarities are explained through common descent? Someone would say, to answer that question, because they all come from common descent. But in logic, that's called a circular argument.
No, you can prove it.
Of
Well,
course.
you're asking how to prove evolution, is that what you're saying?
No. Okay, I think this might be a little bit. I told you this was going to be a difficult thing to talk about, right?
It's not
I'm
like
saying
difficult to-
homology. Do you understand what homology is?
Yeah, basically.
What's homology? I've explained it to you, so I want to know if you know what I'm talking about.
I understand the basics. I
What's
couldn't give
homology?
you a definition of it.
What is homology and what is homoplasy?
I couldn't give you a definition. I know the basics.
Okay,
of
homology.
what it's about.
Let me say it one more time.
Again, I'm not qualified to talk
All
about
right, so
it.
let's not
You
talk. Let's
know,
not talk about it.
We can talk about
No.
it.
Homology
For what we know.
is that everything in existence, in terms of biological organisms, the similarities in those things can be explained because of common descent. Like the fact that we all exist from one singular cell, or everything sprouted from that. So me and that tree are cousins or something, yeah? In the past. You and that, whatever it may be, the mushroom, the magic mushroom that they eat in the rock continent, I'm only joking, are somewhat related. Do you understand me? So homology would
But
dictate.
there's a lot of proof and evidence for that.
No. I'm saying homology is an Look, in order to do science, there is something called the philosophy of science. In order to do biology, there is something called the philosophy of biology. Yeah? So the philosophy of science tells us how to do the scientific method. Hypothesis, experimentation, peer review, falsification, etc. Okay, the philosophy of biology are the logical precepts which underpin the discipline of biology. So one of the logical precepts which underpin the Darwinian model of evolution is this idea of homology. So what is homology? Homology is the idea that everything in the biological framework, all similarities can be defined through the fact that we're commonly descended from one singular cell. My question is as follows: how can you prove that? That's it. How can you prove that?
So you're asking to. They're two different. You've got evolution and you've got abiogenesis.
I'm not talking about.
Are you talking about
No. I'm not talking about abiogenesis. I'm not talking about the beginnings.
Like, do you want examples, or is that what or do you
No,
want?
no.
I can't give you a
Okay, fine.
general-
Look, this homology is a precept. It's a concept. It's abstract in a sense. It's an underpinning. It's not something which can be proven.
You're not genetic sequencing.
It's not.
That's something.
No. But you're not following what I'm saying. Homology is a precept you use to identify the patterns within evolution. You use it to understand. So if I were to ask you what is homology, it's the similarities in the. So I'm going to ask, why does homoplasy exist?
Why does what exist?
Homoplasy. Why does that exist? How can you? The differences within organisms within the web of life.
The process of evolution, which can,
Why does homoplasy exist?
well, why do differences exist? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Why does homoplasy, especially when we're talking about something like, for example, if we're talking about the same organisms, yeah, the saber-toothed tiger, the North American saber-toothed tiger versus the South American saber-toothed tiger, how comes they're not? How comes there's differences and they're not even in the same family? How comes?
Because they're different. They're different. They're the same species, but they're different.
But they're not in the same family though.
No, they're still felines, though.
No, they're not commonly descended from each other. They're not common. They're not cousins. They look very similar. You've got very similar looking animals that are not commonly descended from one another. How can you explain that? Why is that?
Because we're all made of the same stuff, essentially.
But this is not a good enough answer. So look, to understand, look, the thing is, you
You're
understand.
asking me to say one or two sentences to explain an entire.
Simba, you have to
spectrum of
understand something, right? I believe strongly, from having this conversation with you, that you've been socialized into atheism. And because the thing is, you haven't applied criticality to your believing of Darwinian evolution even. You don't even know the foundational precepts which underpin.
change over time, isn't it?
No, but you have to understand something, right? There are foundational precepts which underpin the biology, the philosophy of biology. So here, I've explained to you that there's something called homology and something called homoplasy, and that those two things are different, in fact, antithetical to each other. And I want to understand, how can we prove homology without using homology type definitions to prove it? Because that's the only way you can prove homology. How can you account for the existence of homoplasy? So if we can't answer those questions, then I will say to you, then you have faith, my friend. Because you believe in evolution without even understanding the precepts which underpin them. You believe in evolution.
You don't believe in like fossils and...
Listen, I'm not saying I don't believe in the fossils. There are different...
That they show,
look, the fossils are there, but there are different models by which and through which scientists use to explain the fossils. So you have Neo-Lamarckian evolution. You have, you know what I'm saying, obviously Darwinian evolution. You have different models, man. And all of these models are explaining the same data, but are compartmentalizing them in different ways. I'm saying that the evidence is there, but the way of explaining the evidence is different. Just like, for instance, if I had this cup and I dropped the cup, Einstein would have looked at that and said, okay, well, I have this way of explaining it. But Newton had X way of explaining it. Yeah? Just like when we look at celestial bodies in space, Newton had an explanation of the relationship between different points in space. And Leibniz had a different explanation. But they're looking at the same data. By the same token, we can say that evolutionists aforetime and to this day are still discussing in academic spheres how to interpret data. And I'm saying that yes, although evolution is to some extent a valid model, validity does not mean absolute truth. And you see, there is a distinction between those two things.
Say that about anything. You can
No,
say
you can't.
anything that we know is true. Oh, we can't say it's absolutely true, so therefore it might be wrong.
That's what you were saying about religion.
What?
That's what you were saying about religion.
Yeah, but you're saying the same thing. I have evidence, though. Like,
What do you have evidence? You don't even know how to explain it.
Evidence.
What is your... Okay, give me explanation for homology. How do we know homology exists? Simple question. You were talking to me about Buraq and the flying this and that. So that's something I believe in, yeah? I believe it because I have an epistemological base, which happens to be the Quran. And I believe that the Quran has offered evidences to allow me to believe in it. Now, that's my way of rationalizing it. You see, I'm asking you to rationalize your belief in homology. You believe in homology, you believe in Darwinian evolution. My contention is you believe in it because you've been socialized into believing it in the 21st century narrative of new atheism.
Have you not been socialized into believing religion from your parents or from the culture?
Yes, I probably have.
It's the same thing.
No, but the thing is, the difference is this. I have been able to apply criticality and also explain to you the reasons for believing something. Because otherwise this will be the genetic fallacy. Who cares where something comes from? It can come from the Middle Ages, it can come from this time or that time, it can be true or false. I'm saying to you, fine, you've been socialized in this way, but at least have some kind of reasoning behind why you believe in what you believe in. Otherwise it would show that you haven't been able to apply an appropriate amount of criticality to this particular subject matter. So you believe in something literally without evidence. In fact, you could say you believe in it because a white man with a white, Where's the research you've done? I'm asking you. A white man with
I haven't got a university degree. I do.
No, fine. But a white man with a white laboratory, you know what I'm saying, attire has told you this is the case, and you believe in that guy. He's become your god. Now I'm asking you, if you believe in Darwinian evolution, no problem. It's a valid model. Explain to me what is homology, and how can you prove homology to be true, in light of the fact that you, without having to resort to using it to prove its own existence or its own truth.
You're asking me to show that homology is true without
using homology.
Without studying things about fossils or like genetic sequencing.
It's not, homology is an assumption. It's not, we see, homology is an assumption that all of the similarities that we see in biology as a result of common descent. How can you prove that to be the case without using a circular argument? That's all I'm saying.
So you're asking me to explain evolution without talking about evolution. Is that that's basically what you're saying?
If you want to prove something, you can't use this thing to prove the thing. Otherwise it becomes circular. And that's a logical fallacy.
Well, I mean, again, there's loads of... What angle do you want me to take? Biological or geological?
No,
or?
I'm telling you, there's no way of doing it.
There's
And
no
this,
way of saying,
yeah,
like,
and by the way,
science of
on the highest
fossils
levels, philosophers of biology have admitted that this is one of the problems. Do you see what I'm saying? So everything has problems, everything has gaps, everything has faith. Let me ask you a question. A plus B equals B plus A. Oh, so A, B equals B, A. A plus B equals B plus A. Is that correct? Mathematically.
Yeah.
How can you prove that?
Well, like, you can put numbers there. Like, what you want to?
Because you're talking about proving things, yeah? You believe that A plus B equals B plus A.
So therefore, you can't prove anything. So you can't say that.
No, what I'm saying is,
the truth then.
no. I'm just, once again, we're using our minds here, yeah? A plus B equals B plus A is axiomatic. It's something you believe in, I believe in, without any evidence. Do you know that?
Then therefore, everything that we say isn't true.
No.
Is
That's
true.
a generalizable reality.
That's what you're doing.
No. I'm just saying A plus B equals B plus A is axiomatic. An axiom is something which literally you believe in without evidence. There is no evidence of the fact that A plus B equals B plus A. You can't use any mathematical proof.
We can use linguistic evidence and say
There is no
the
such.
term plus
It's a
in
mathematical.
mathematics is addition.
No, you can't do anything. I can tell you that for a fact.
Well, I'm not getting what you're saying.
I'm
A plus
saying,
B is-
you keep saying that, okay, well, you're asking me, why do you believe in
I keep
X?
feeling like you're trying to use clever sort of like linguistic ninja skills to try and trap me in a
No,
corner.
this is
or
not
make-
what I say. This is Kurt Gödel, by the
Prove
way.
your point.
Gödel, he had something called the, what's it called now? He had a theory, which I forget the name of it now. Incompleteness theory. It's called incompleteness theory. And he was talking about the different precepts, and he said that there are some axioms, okay, of mathematics, which are non-provable. This is a Western European, mathematician. And he said A plus B equals B plus A is not something which you can prove. It's axiomatic. You believe in it by necessity without evidence. And I'm saying to you that there are lots of things you believe in by necessity without evidence. And you can't prove them. And you have faith in them. So because the thing is, once again, part of the narrative is that anything which you have faith in must be false, which is a false argument in and of itself. There's lots of things you have faith in which you don't believe in. You don't have any evidence for it. Even homology is one of those things. Some mathematical axioms is another one of those things. Your own existence is a third thing, and the list goes on. Do you get it? So what we do, I'm going to give you now a way of dealing with it. Going back to the beginning of this conversation, what we do is we use inference to the best explanation. We see that, for example, the principle of contingency and causation, are generalizable to a high degree. We would say that in describing the existence of the universe, we say that it is contingent, it is caused. Therefore, what caused it? What is it contingent upon? We realize that actually it's contingent upon an entity which is one, which is all powerful, knowledgeable, etc. And then we say, therefore, it makes sense to believe in this entity. Why is it created? Us, we would say, to recognize its existence and then to have a relationship with it. That's Islam. Do you get it?
I'll be honest, I'm starting to lose. I've been talking for hours. I'm walking through. You started talking to me for a start.
Yeah.
I have no preparation here. You've probably been preparing for years
No.
for this stuff.
No.
You're losing me. Do you know what I mean? I'm
It's
tired.
been 3 hours.
Yeah, how long have you been? Okay. My name's Ali.
Okay.
How did it go? What was you guys discussing?
Well, we're talking about all kinds of things.
Is it?
Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to go and pray.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
I'm on a duck.
do you want to